ground. Normally I would be looking at my fire extinguisher and I would tell them my fire extinguisher is properly mounted and secured. Nuts and bolts are all present and tight. It is not cracked, bent, or broke. My needle is in the green, my pin is installed, and it is properly rated ABC for my truck. Right back here in the compartment I got my 3 triangles. They're red and orange in color, and that's where I store them. I'm going to use my 3-point entry and get into my truck. I'm going to talk about my fuses. I got 1 spare fuse for every type of fuse in the truck. And then I'm going to talk about my seat belt. My seat belt should pull, latch, unlatch, and then relatch. I'm going to pull my belt out and check the condition. It should not be cut, torn, or frayed. Now I'm ready to close my door and do a safe start. Both of my brakes are set. My truck is in neutral. Clutch goes to the floor. Fire the truck up. Watch for my ABS light to come on and go off. And ensure that my oil pressure is building up a little bit. Now I can ease my clutch out and check the free play in my clutch. I should have between 1 and 1.5 inches of free play in the clutch. I'll check the free play in my steering wheel. I should have no more than 2 inches of free play in the steering wheel. And then I'm going to finish my steering wheel. And then I'm going to do my other horn. Now both of my horns are done. If I look out past my arm, I got my mirror out there. I have 6 mirrors on my truck. All of my mirrors are properly mounted and secured. My nuts and bolts are present and tight. None of them are cracked, bent, or broken. The glass is clean and my mirrors are adjusted for me. If I start moving to the right, like I'm reading a book, top to bottom, left to right, move to the right, I got my windshields. Both of those are properly mounted and secured. They're not cracked, broken, or chipped. There's one oddball, but not chipped. They're clean and they have no stickers on there blocking my view. Down below that I have my windshield wipers. Properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. The blade is flush against the windshield and the blade itself is not cracked or dry rotted. I've already did all the way over to the right. Now I'm ready to come back to the left and start my next set. First thing I come to is my voltage. Voltage meter should be between 12 and 15. Then I drop down to my engine temperature. Should be between 180 and 190. And then I drop down to my oil pressure. My oil pressure should read between normal pressure 30 to 60 when you're driving. It can drop as low as 20 when you're idling. And that depends on the manufacturer. If I move across to the right a little bit, I got my air pressure gauges, primary and secondary. They should be between 120 and 125 psi. Move back over to the left. I'm going to turn my lights on. And I'm going to check all my gauges to make sure my gauges are backlit. Oops, that's not what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. Alright, over here on the left side of the steering column, there's a little rotary dial, just like on your car where you can adjust your dash lights. So at night they're not quite so bright. Make sure that that switch is rotated all the way up to the maximum setting so you can see your dash lights. Alright, my dash lights are all working properly. The next thing I want to check, my headlight high and low beam indicator comes on, and then I want to check and make sure that my blinkers and my 4-way flashers work. Done with my lights. Now I want to go ahead and check my windshield wipers. They got to come on and go off. And theoretically they wash the windshield too. But difference between theory and reality is we don't always get what we want in reality. Theory is good. Alright. After that, I'm going to move my hand back over across my steering column to the right. When it comes to my climate control system, I want my fan all the way on, and then I'm going to rotate my selector to the floor. I'm going to ensure that I'm getting air down at the floor, and I'm going to rotate my selector to my windshield and make sure I'm getting air on the windshield. At that point in time, I want to make sure I can heat that air. And we're good. Now I know that my heater, my defroster, and my temperature selector all work. After that, all I do is come down a little bit farther, and it's time to do a brake check. With my brake check, the first thing that I want to do is put my truck in gear. I tell people to use 3. That way it doesn't have so much torque that it's a problem, but it's not such a high gear you're going to stall your truck up. I'm going to release my parking brake and check my trailer. The one that is out is the one that we're checking. So all I'm going to do is let it give a little bit of a tug, just like that. That's all I need. Now I'm going to set my parking brake, release my trailer brake, and I'm going to give it a tug again and check my parking brake. That's it. Now I'm going to release both of them. I'm going to roll forward approximately 5 miles an hour. And I'm going to put my service brake on. My service brake should stop the vehicle, and it shouldn't pull to the left or to the right. After that, I'm ready to shut my truck off. With it in gear still. Both the buttons are pushed in still. Leave my hand on the key. Turn the key back to the on position. At this point in time, I'm ready to do what we call LAB, my lab test, leaks, alarms, and buttons. I have to have power for that, and these have to be released. So the first thing I'm going to do is pressurize my brake system. And I'm going to hold that for 1 minute. I'm going to wait till the pressure stabilizes, and then I'm going to start my minute. I'm going to keep the same pressure on it and make sure that I don't lose more than 4 psi within that minute. See it dropping a little bit, and now it's stable. Now I would start my 1 minute. Always ask your tester if he'll tell you when a minute is up, otherwise you're going to be sitting here staring at your watch, waiting for a whole minute, holding pressure on that pedal. Your tester is going to look at you in just a few seconds and go, okay, that's good, and you're going to release the pedal, and you're not going to have to hold it the whole time. Alright, the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start fanning my brake pedal, because I'm trying to get my low air alarm and light to come on, and that's what the A is, alarm. That's going to happen between 60 and 65 psi. Not much of a noise with it, is there? Alright. So I got my light on. Next thing I want to do is continue fanning my brakes until both of my safety valves pop. That is going to happen between 20 and 45 psi. One of them. There's the other one. Alright, after that, I'm going to do what we call the safe start again. Shut my key off, put my truck in neutral, check both of my brakes anyway, push my clutch to the floor, start my truck back up. Turn the air on because we're dying over here. Ease my clutch back out nice and slow. And now I would ask my tester if he would help me do an exterior light check. On the exterior light check, we're going to check everything that comes on when we hit the switch. Bumper to bumper, top to bottom, and side to side. Headlights, tail lights, clearance lights, and all of my marker lights are going to come on. Then I want to check my high and low beam indicators. They're going to check up front, make sure that my lights change. I'm going to check my blinkers and my four-way flashers. And then they're going to move to the back of the truck. When they get to the back of the truck, I'm going to check my blinkers and my flashers again. And then my brake lights and my reverse light. That's it. That's the whole thing, just like that.